like a butterfly and sting like a bee. George can't hit what his hands can't see. Now you see me, now you don't. He think he will, but I know he won't. They tell me George is good, but I'm twice as nice. And I'm gonna stick to his butt like white on rice. That's right. That was the greatest of all time. Of all time.
What's up, everyone? GoodMicWork back at you with a surprise commentary. Very rare that I do something like this. This is going to be an incredibly short video, but I just learned of the passing of Muhammad Ali a couple of hours ago, and I thought to myself, you know, what would it take just to come up and do a small video, a small commentary acknowledging the death of Muhammad Ali, such a huge, legendary, iconic figure that we lost today is a very big deal. And because of his association with wrestling and the link between boxing and wrestling, it's a little outside of my comfort zone, but I still feel like I owe it to him to at least come up here and say something. So this is just going to be a little short tribute and short discussion about Muhammad Ali. Of course, we all know he suffered from Parkinson's disease, which is just a horrible disease to watch somebody have. Finally succumbed to this today, June 3rd, 2016, at the age of 74. I read this morning, the news was all over Twitter and other websites that he was placed on life support because he had been hospitalized, respiratory problems, or something like that. And basically the family was preparing everyone that his days are numbered. That day turned out to be one. He didn't even make it through the day, and he died sometime this evening. Truth be told, I've never really been a huge boxing fan. If I ever was a fan, it was during the golden era when there were so many great fighters and so many great heavyweights. And Muhammad Ali defeated them all. He defeated every major successful heavyweight contender that there was. I mean, George Foreman, Joe Frazier, Sonny Liston, Floyd Patterson, Ken Norton, you name it, he defeated everybody. Had a career record of 56-5. That's unbelievable. And even like 3 out of his 5 losses came in the last few fights that he had. To say he was the greatest of all time is not really an exaggeration. He definitely has an extremely strong case of being the greatest of all time, and I believe that he is. The huge boxing events and matches that he was involved in, some of these went worldwide. Not only what he did here in the States, you know, in arenas like Madison Square Garden, but the Rumble in the Jungle with George Foreman, the Thrill in Manila with Joe Frazier, both of which he won. Both fights were watched pretty much by a worldwide audience, and the guy was just legendary, huge icon, in not only boxing, but in life and entertainment. And that's the key word, entertainment. He accomplished all of that with such style. I mean, this guy invented mic skills. Truly, he did. He trash talked like no other. He brought a whole different dynamic to boxing matches because he understood the value of entertainment in boxing, and he also understood psychology and getting in your opponent's head and getting under their skin and flustering them and agitating them. I mean, it just puts you at more of an advantage, and he knew how to do that, and it was all part of who Muhammad Ali was. And because of the entertainment value that he had, on top of the fact that he was an incredible boxer and pretty much the greatest of all time, you had an unbelievable recipe for a megastar. I mean, look at how far his influence has reached. I mean, he's gone outside of boxing and influenced people in professional wrestling. You can't tell me that there's not a little bit of Muhammad Ali in superstar Billy Graham. And you definitely can't tell me that there's not a little bit of Muhammad Ali in someone like The Rock. Listen to the way The Rock talks trash compared to the way Muhammad Ali talks trash. There is a very, very strong similarity there. And especially the way they can be ruthless and vicious, but also be very cute. I mean, Muhammad Ali would say things like, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Incredibly entertaining. You can't help but have a smile on your face when you hear something like that. But then at the same time, he could get very, very personal with some of his opponents. And, call them more harsh names. And then he could rhyme and humiliate his opponents, while singing at the same time. One of my favorite quotes ever, I think it was before the Rumble in the Jungle with George Foreman. I had to pull it up because I couldn't remember how it went. So just bear with me while I glance over at the screen. But he was quoted before the fight saying, "I've done something new for this fight. I've done wrestled with an alligator. I've done tussled with a whale. Handcuffed lightning, thrown thunder in jail. Just last week I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick." I mean, who the hell comes up with that shit? That is amazing stuff. I could easily picture The Rock saying the exact same thing to someone during the Attitude Era. When you go back and watch some of Muhammad Ali's trash talking, or you read some of the quotes from his trash talking, you can't help but be rolling on the floor laughing your ass off. The guy was unbelievably entertaining, especially for that time. We're talking about the 60s and 70s here. And where I also have a soft spot for Muhammad Ali is he was always incredibly good to wrestling, making several appearances in wrestling throughout his life. I remember a couple of confrontations he had. He had a confrontation with Gorilla Monsoon in the WWE, I think in like 1976. And you can find it on YouTube or on probably the WWE Network or somewhere. But Muhammad Ali's on the outside of the ring, like ringside for a Gorilla Monsoon match. He ends up getting in the ring and wants to fight with Gorilla. Gorilla picks him up, puts him in an airplane spin, and throws him down. And the referees kind of had to back off Gorilla. So Muhammad really kind of did the job there. Even though that was an official match, he let Gorilla pick him up and throw him down, and Muhammad laid motionless on the mat. He could barely move. He was so fucking dizzy. He also had the wrestling match with Antonio Inoki, which was kind of like an exhibition. I think it went like 15 rounds or something like that. Very, very boring stuff. You can find this on YouTube too. I have a couple of copies of this match in my personal wrestling collection. But the match wasn't well received. It was kind of boring, to be honest. But it was still a pretty epic confrontation between, what could have been the greatest of all time in wrestling and the greatest of all time in boxing getting in the ring together. And it was booked very 50-50 to where it was like a split decision and neither guy had to lose face. But speaking of mic skills, I remember like before the match they did, I don't know, kind of like a press conference, but it was almost like a sit-down dinner type banquet. And Muhammad Ali is just looking over at Antonio Inoki and just making fun of him. Look at him trying to eat his food. Look at him picking that fork up to his mouth and missing. He doesn't even know where his mouth is. I mean, just all sorts of shit. I mean, the guy just, he can easily have you cracking up. He was also, of course, involved in the first WrestleMania. In the main event, he was the special enforcer, guest referee on the outside of the ring. That match, that first ever WrestleMania main event, was just stacked with celebrities. They had Billy Martin, they had Liberace, they had Muhammad Ali. Dick Clark, I think, was the ring announcer. I mean, they were really trying to stack this card huge. So to have Muhammad Ali's presence there was a huge deal. He came back and did some more work, I think, later on for WCW. I think he was there when Hogan went over to WCW and beat Ric Flair. He might have even done something else with them before, too. So he's made many appearances in wrestling. And for that, that's why I feel like I should come up here and at least acknowledge his death, because he has a lot of wrestling ties. And not only the times that he's appeared for pro wrestling promotions, but all of the influence he's had on so many wrestlers. And I'm really surprised he's not in the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, what the hell is that about? I mean, maybe he can go in now, because we saw the way they started to do those legacy inductions and just kind of inducting a whole bunch of guys at the same time. Muhammad Ali meant a lot to that first WrestleMania. And when it comes to the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame, he's a name that's been missing. If you don't know much about his life, you don't have to listen to me. There's plenty of information out there on Muhammad Ali, countless books. Of course, there's movies, lots of articles you can read up on his life story. It is quite a fascinating tale, to say the least. Some of the battles that he fought inside and outside of the ring. I mean, he's led a very controversial life. He took a stand when he was younger against the Vietnam War and not to be drafted. It caused him to be suspended from boxing for a couple of years while they went through the whole court process. And he was found guilty, and then he appealed, and he had his conviction overturned. He converted to Islam when he was a young man, changing his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, and cited religious reasons for not being willing to take part in the war. And I don't blame him at all. I'm so glad that we're lucky enough to live in an era where there's not a draft and where you're not forced to join the armed forces. Now it's on a volunteer basis, and we have all the brave men and women who have volunteered to defend our country to thank for that. I also admired him for how much he was able to accomplish in his life, the people that he was able to inspire, his charitable work, what a great humanitarian he is, kind-hearted and gracious and sympathetic in a lot of ways. So it's a huge loss, for boxing fans, for people here in this country, and for anyone anywhere in the world that looked up to or admired Muhammad Ali and what he accomplished and what he meant to so many people. So my thoughts are with his friends and his family and his extended family, anybody that knew him or anybody whose life he touched. My heart goes out to you. It's a huge loss. I mean, he's an icon. And when you think of boxing, he really should be the very first face that pops in everyone's head when they think about the sport. So that's all I wanted to come up here and say. I know it's a short, little lame video. And like I said, I'm no Muhammad Ali expert. I'm no boxing expert. So if you want hardcore facts, or if I made any mistakes in any of the shit I rattled off here, feel free to correct me. My main point of this video was just to come up here and acknowledge the passing of a true icon and a hero to so many. and what he meant to boxing and the way that kind of overlapped and took a couple of steps into wrestling, I felt was definitely worthy of me coming up here and making a video. It's been fun reading all of the social media support, on Twitter from so many wrestlers and boxers and people all across entertainment. Everybody is sounding off on their feelings on Muhammad Ali. So here's a toast to the greatest of all time as I open this beer. Maybe the microphone will pick it up. A truly inspiring figure who will be deeply missed by millions of people all around the world. Rest in peace, Muhammad Ali.